open up above yesterday's high. And if we open up above yesterday's high, we can obviously look for a nice trend continuation for the rest of the week. Unfortunately, obviously, we're not doing that. My main concern is because I wanted to use a concept like using a previous day high. So if we opened up right here, if we were opening up here, I could tell myself, hey, I can either look to take a breakout of that strength, or I can look for a pullback into that previous day high, which would have lined up perfectly actually with this order block, the support area. And I could have looked for a bounce for calls. But now we're given a different challenge to work with, which is actually breaking through this order block, which we can. You saw it happen yesterday. We can do that. It just presents a challenge. And I would always, always rather take calls off support than take calls at a resistance level, okay? So the only times these usually work is when that move has been, that particular level has been tested multiple times. That's the only time that works. I got to open my windows here. Did I do the right one? Okay. So that's the only time that really works. And that's what, we need to think about as we're watching this play out, is telling ourselves, hey, if we don't see a lot of buying pressure, people keep asking, James, what does buying pressure look like for the people that don't have the boot camp? Buying pressure just looks like, for me, at least in my opinion, if I can see orders over 1,000 on the order book level 2, hitting the tape at the ask, that's what I like to see. Now, it doesn't mean if I don't see stuff at 1,000, it completely wanes me off. Because remember, reading order book level 2 time and sales, it's not like it's a cheat code. It's not going to make you right 100% of the time. It's a nice tool to use to give you a technical advantage over others that don't use that. They kind of trade blindly. So they're just relying on patterns and things like that, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just this is a higher success rate that I've seen for most people. So what I would like to see at my breakout level for calls, which is 25,794 right here, or for NQ, which is QQQ, which is 623. I have to see large orders coming in at the ask. If I do not, I am not taking that trade. If you ask why, it's because that means that level is more than likely going to form as a rejection because it's a 4-hour level. It's more than likely going to form as a rejection, and it's going to get a pullback. And that's okay. That's okay if we get a pullback. I don't have to try to take this breakout on the first go round. I can let it chip away at some passive orders here, fill some buyers out, boom, starts to sell back through. Then I have my bounce level on watch. So I'll be watching for a bounce around 25.7, basically 40, or 621.47. All right. So it kind of lines up with pre-market low. I actually think it's going to be 621.7, I think, is the more accurate level for QQQ. But I want to see a hold of the previous 4-hour level. That's basically what I want to see. I don't want to try to enter into shorts because I am bullish to the upside. I don't want to try to enter into shorts necessarily as long as we're above this 4-hour level. So, even though something like NVIDIA and Apple look weak, right? NVIDIA and Apple do look weak in the pre-market. Yes. All right. This mouse pad is trash. Yes, that might cause me to, want to be like, oh, let me try to eye a rejection of this 4-hour level because NVIDIA and Apple are weak and the market could come up a little bit and then start to dump and sell through. That is a completely valid game plan. Yes, I totally agree. I just think it depends on where your bias is in the morning. If you don't have a bias, if it's unclear to you, that's fine. That's kind of where you just want to sit out for a second. Just maybe pick a time frame that you're comfortable with, maybe 15 minutes, and watch. See how the market plays out. But you need to be willing to accept the fact that a good trade might happen in the first 15 minutes and you might miss it, and then you might be cashed the rest of the day. As long as you can be okay with that, then that's a good way to go about it if you're unsure and you're not confident in a setup. Because a good example is if I call a breakout here at 94, if I say 25,794, if I go NQ longs, I'm in these at 94, and you're like, yeah, I don't know. And then I get up here to 810. And then I'm like, all right, that's awesome. Let's see this keep pushing. And you're like, all right, I'm going to enter. And then we get to 23 and we take a trim, but you don't because you're up 8 points. And then it pulls back and comes back to entry. And then we have a win and you have a stop loss. It's nothing to be upset about. It's just something to journal. That's just something you have to journal. You have to say, well, why did I hesitate? What did I not like about that trade? Because it didn't work that well. It only went from, it only gave you 25 points. So it's nothing where you need to be super upset about it. You just need to be like, well, what did I not like about it? And then why did I end up entering it when it was a worse trade? I entered it later. So things you have to take note of. Don't just get negative just because you take a trade and it's a loss. Okay. And some of you guys have to remember, even if I'm giving you a nice clean signal, a lot of you guys will still ignore stuff I say. You know, one of my one-on-one students I was talking to yesterday, I was asking him, I was like, why didn't you scale out a lot at this at the 4 hour level when I was expressing, you know, it was more than likely going to reject here, and we trimmed the majority of the position. And he was like, I was just in my zone. Like I could hear you, but I wasn't hearing you. I was in my zone. And it's like, okay, so I'm there, but you're not really processing what I'm saying because you're so involved in your own trade. Again, those are things we need to be careful for. We need to watch out for. If I'm saying something out loud like that, like, hey, I know this is a decent trade, you know, you're up 40 points, but we're more than likely going to reject this 4 hour level. Well, maybe take that in consideration. Again, doesn't mean you have to exit the full position, but just be a little cautious and say, okay, look, James has been doing this for a while. He's okay at this stuff, at this trading thing. Maybe I will be a little more cautious. Maybe I'll sell 8 of my 10 contracts just in case, instead of selling 5 of 10, because it can just dump from here. Just something to keep in mind. I'm not always right, but you know, I got some good screen time with this. So now, let's say the market starts to open up really close to our 4 hour level for weakness. I will be getting ready for shorts, guys. All right. If the market for some reason is opening up super close to 740, or coming down here to this pre-market low area, I will get ready for shorts. I will try to take advantage of that weakness. I think a key player today is going to be NVIDIA. This 186.6 has been a very stubborn support level. You guys see this? Very stubborn support level. I actually have it for NVIDIA today, 186.6 for a bounce level for NVIDIA, right? However, if we fail it aggressively, so if I see a lot of orders coming in at the bid, I will look to take a breakout on NVIDIA for puts, actually, literally just a few cents later. So at 186.5, right? Basically, if I see the failure of this zone, 186.5 is going to roughly be my confirmation if it's within the market open. If it ends up happening like 45 minutes later, no, I'm skipping that setup. That's not a setup I'm taking. So, and then Tesla, I like the range today. I like the range because we can have a nice recovery move, or we can continue that dump from yesterday. Okay. Either or. We can do either or. So I like both directions today on Tesla. And luckily, it's formed a nice tight range in the pre-market. So odds are it's going to get a decent move. What I would love to see out of this on Tesla is simply keeping it very simple today, breakout of 435.8 for calls, or a failure of 431 for puts. Okay, so 431 being below the pre-market low, because I want to see if it bounces the pre-market low. I do not want to take the breakout there. I want to take the breakout roughly around 431. And then I just need to be cautious $2 below at 428.6, 428.8. That's all I got to be worried about. So either way, really loving that setup in both directions. And that's pretty much what I have on watch. I did want to bring up, obviously, we can see Apple and AMD are basically mirroring each other. They both look super weak, but they're both at a nice support area. MU is diverging quite a bit here. I do like MU. Again, this stock has just gained a lot of attention with how much value it's gained, especially on the day trading side. But the moves are pretty big. It's kind of like trading Coinbase, so keep that in mind if you're going to try to day trade MU. They are not beginner-friendly option contracts. I could see the 340 break here being a beautiful breakout to the upside, or you can try to wait for like a 345, 346 area breakout to the upside. In terms of downside on MU, I would avoid that. I would actually watch to see if it holds for support at 329. That's what I'd be watching for in MU. Meta is in a really nasty spot because of the price action from yesterday. It's at the same level it was from yesterday, but the fact that that breakout yesterday just returned so little and then it dumped and then had a massive bounce, I no longer like this zone it's now formed in. So I just want to kind of stay away from Meta. All right. Let's get our brokers unlocked and ready to go. Market's rallying now. Yes. All right, well, I will leave this alone then. All right, so for QQQ, I'll have the 624 calls. And the 620 puts. If you're going to take MU, I would be doing the 350 calls. All the contracts are on the watch list, guys. NVIDIA is moving nicely to the upside here. All right. Getting ready for calls here at the open on QQQ and Tesla and honestly, MU as well. NQ longs, I'm in these guys. NQ longs, QQQ calls. QQQ, my fill is $1 a contract. I'm going to sell here at $1.25. Contracts have moved well. Just wait for your futures TP. The entry here is going to be based right on where we're at. This is the entry spot right here. I want to see this move nice and straight up to 815, basically. It's right where it's just shy of touching that. Based on the hold here, point of control is 623.15. Oh, MU is just flying. Stop out at 15% on these QQQ contracts. That's going to be 85 cents a contract. That's where I would stop out at if you didn't get to trim. It's right there. It's right there. All right, it's failing this level. If you didn't get to trim, obviously you're stopped out of this trade. It is holding this really well, though. I mean, look at this volume coming in here. It's trying to hold this. I'll be interested in a reclaim of 794. I will be interested if it comes back up quickly. If it doesn't come back up quickly, I'm not interested. So he's continuing to hold this. I'll put this on a 1 minute here. All right, NQ longs, giving it another shot here. NQ longs, QQQ calls. 624 calls, same fill. $1 a contract. $1 a contract. I'm going to do the same trim. $1.20 a contract. I'm going to trim right here. This is where I'm taking that first trim, $1.20 a contract. That's 20% profit right now. 15 points on NQ, but 20% profit. Same thesis as the first trade. We've broken the point of control, 623.13. Basically that pre-market high. I want to see this continue. I want to see this continue. Stop is at entry. I'm just going to leave that. I'm holding here on Tesla. It's trying to bounce this, but it's looking weak to me. Tesla's looking real weak. So I will take my breakout for puts on Tesla if it shows too much weakness here. NVIDIA did bounce that 186.68 perfectly. Look at NVIDIA. If you're in on NVIDIA, I would be trimming heavy right now if you're in on NVIDIA, and I would target that 188.9 for a majority exit. Okay? If you took the bounce on NVIDIA, the 186.6 bounce from the watch list in the pre-market discussion. I myself, the first trade was a small scalp. The second trade, I've sold the majority at 815. I've sold 3/4 of the position. It's only 20% profit, but I don't want to play with this range. If we start to move up aggressively, I myself am going to wait a very long time to trim again. Okay, just an FYI. I'm going to wait for about 60% profit before I trim again. So if you're waiting on me to base your trims off of, just know that, okay? 60 points. This is roughly what 60 points will look like. Next 4-hour level, basically. There we go. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. All right. If you took a loss in the first trade and this would make you green, I would take it. I would take your green. Just trust me on this one. 624 hold psych number. You're going to feel really good about ending the day green, just in case this were to come back and you would end your day red. It's all about building base hits as a newer trader, okay? It's all about building base hits. So 624 is a really good full exit right here on QQQ and NQ. Really good full exit. I'm basing that, by the way, I'm basing that off of us being up roughly 40 points in profit. And if the first trade was a little too quick, because very realistically, it could have been too fast. Totally understand. With it being a 15-point stop loss, you could very easily be back in the green right now with a simple 2-to-1 risk to reward ratio. So that's where this discussion is coming from. If you don't care about ending your day red at all, if you just don't care because you have a system and you trust your system, then you can just stick with me in this trade and let it keep running. The next level I am very concerned about is 25,850. I have a 4-hour level coming up at that point. Point of control is right where we're forming at right now. We're getting a, that's not good. That's not good. We do not want a point of control forming right here. We need this to push immediately up from our level right now. We need a lot more orders to come in at the ask. Currently, there's a lot of sellers hitting the tape. There's a lot of sellers hitting the tape right now. I need to see some more buying pressure. By the way, when you see price react like that, as I'm saying there are sellers hitting the tape and prices pulling back, that's what I mean for those that are brand new. When sellers hit the tape, that means that the price is more likely going to come down. If I'm saying buyers are hitting the tape, that means the price should realistically start moving up. MU is on its own here. If you ended up taking that breakout on MU, I didn't signal it. All I said was look at MU. I would just be basically majority out of this trade at that 346.45 level. And on the 340 break. Tesla is bouncing the pre-market low. Basically, what I'm watching to see here is if QQQ can bounce this order block. See this order block that's formed? That's my thesis right now. It's come down. It's reclaimed this liquidity, done a nice little sweep. Now we can see a nice healthy move to the upside, especially if NVIDIA ends up holding this level. That would make a really clean day. That would make a really clean day. A nice reclaim of this and push to the upside. That's what I want to see here. By healthy, I mean we would be getting legitimate movement off the open for a nice, at least a 20-minute trade, right? Usually the really good trades, I don't like to base them off of time because we get trades that hit 100 points in 2 minutes, right? But there we go. That's exactly what we're wanting to see here. But at the same time, usually the ones that run for like 20, 30 minutes, those are the big ones that just go forever. All right. Back towards the top here. If you were a little nervous earlier, we're back up here. We've hit a peak of 40% profit at the peak. There we go. There we go. Remember, I want to see more, though, for me personally. Because I trimmed a bunch at 20% profit, I want to wait 60%. So that would be $1.60 a contract for anyone wondering. I really personally love trades where we get $1 fill because it makes the math really easy. All right. So we're holding this level awesome right here. Hopefully my guidance there was able to help some of you stay in this trade if you were a little nervous or possibly even a re-entry, right? Holding that order block down there. Hopefully you guys like that explanation. The order block, again, it's just based on volume, guys. These zones I draw out, if you see a green box like this, okay, for anyone new, green box, all that means is that is a support. If we're above it, it's a support area. If we're below it, it's a resistance area, okay? So right now we're above it. That's why I was saying hopefully if the market is going to pull back, we're just going to see a reclaim of this and we can see a nice move, a continuation to the upside. So that's what I'm kind of banking on here. Keep an eye on your MU contracts, by the way. Remember, MU moves like Coinbase. The contracts slip a lot. They're very tough to trade. You make a lot of profit very quickly, but you just need to be cautious, okay? That's a trade where I kind of want to have my stop loss slightly above profit. There we go. This should be roughly, I would say 90% profit on MU. It was, I'm sorry, probably 70 to 80% up here because it was 62% at the peak on MU. Here we go on QQQ. All right, trim in here, guys. I waited a little bit longer. 78% profit on QQQ. 78% profit. We've broken through this 4-hour level beautifully. Now I'm going to shoot for 100 points profit. Okay, I have to ask. It's all about getting 1%, but come on, man. You've got to be kidding me. Sorry. I'm just getting really frustrated with technology. That better have been recording, dude. Yes, it was. Okay. All right. It was recording. I freaked out for nothing. I'm just recording the order book for you guys for the boot camp. I've sold the majority, guys. The majority is now gone. I have 100 contracts left of QQQ. That's all I got left. I'm basically seeing here if we can hit 100% profit. At 100% profit, I'm going to sell half of those. I'm going to sell 50 of my 100. And then after 100%, I'm going to scale this up by 50% increments or on NQ, or, roughly 30-point increments on NQ. NQ here, you're sitting at about 70 points profit. So if you trimmed with me up here, you would have trimmed around 70 points, but really solid trade so far. The main thing I liked about this trade, again, I liked how on the re-entry, I liked how it was a little bit slower for everybody, right? Everyone could have realistically gotten in that trade and there wasn't too much of a pullback. And then during I liked how we identified the actual pullback. Like I identified this out loud before it happened. So I gave you guys a nice exit in case you didn't want to sit through that, which I like trades like this to where I can cater to those that like to hold the trade. And I can also cater to those that just look for that 30 to 40 points profit, that 2-to-1 R. That's what they like to see. They're very, very systematic, black and white about their trading, because that is right where the market started to reject, right? Right at 624. That's right where the market started to reject. Right as I said, sellers are hitting the tape. Then we saw that pretty decent sized pullback, right? Almost a 30-point pullback. And then on top of it, just mentioning this order block for anyone that was in the trade with me, mentioning this order block. Again, this zone was found based on volume and prior tests of the level, if you will, just prior price action. I've seen this level been respected many times so far throughout the last recent weeks. And it just keeps confirming for me that that's a real zone. It's a real zone. It's a real level. Okay. So that's why I talked you through that in terms of, hey, we can see it. Price is holding this level. It's holding strong. We used our confluence, which was, give you 3 seconds to think about it, NVIDIA. We used our confluence, which was NVIDIA, my support level, which was based on the watch list. If you go look at the watch list, I literally have it written out. Bounce area for calls on watch at 186.6. That's what I have written out on watch. And as you can see, it bounced this level beautifully. And that was the game plan because it was a pre-market low combined with a strong support level that we've seen been respected the last few days, right? This has been respected pretty darn well, this range. Now, there's not much room to the upside on NVIDIA because it's been consolidating, which is why I was mentioning roughly a full exit around this 189 area. However, that's what this trade was based off of, all right? That's what this entirety, the hold of the trade, was based off of. It was based off the hold of the order block and our confluence of NVIDIA holding that support level. So long-winded rant there, long-winded explanation, but hopefully you guys are learning a lot from this. I want you to, when I first started this community, I simply just wanted to call out my trades. That's all I wanted to do. I said, I think it's BS that traders online can't just call out all their trades. If they're so successful at trading, why don't they call out their trades? Let other people win. I don't get it. If you say you're as good as you are. But it's evolved now to this point to where I really do enjoy sounding like a broken radio and just word vomiting out everything I'm thinking and seeing in this trade because it helps me become a better trader as well. I know that's a cliche thing, like you become a teacher and it helps you be better at your subject, but it's helping me become a better trader because it's keeping me responsible to my system. I have to stay true to my system because I'm going to look like a fool if I tell you to do something and then I myself don't do it. And then on top of it, it's also reinforcing these habits. I think these are good habits that I have for day trading. Some people might view market open trades as impossible and risky, but as you see, we've done it for a year straight now successfully. But the main thing here is just using volume in conjunction with key levels, your price action, quote unquote, to take good setups. Low risk, high reward setups, A+ setups. Can I fire shots at everything every single day? I totally can, but that's more of a scalper's mentality. And there's nothing wrong with scalping, by the way. There's nothing wrong with scalping. That's how I started out. If you hear day traders speaking ill about scalping, maybe take that with 2 cents. Scalping is a great way to make money. It's just obviously more high stress. It requires extremely accurate execution because now you're playing a game of very fine percentage points. Because if I'm scalping for 15% profit, that means I got a stop loss of about 7%. I don't have much room for error there. I need to be hawkeyeing that tape. And I don't have the ability to look at this many stocks. I just can't. If I'm looking for a 15% scalp, I unfortunately have to pick one stock and I need to have, I'm going to do a video on this because a lot of you guys, I found out about it recently, but it's pretty cool. You can have 2 watch lists. You have to do this in the custom tab on Webull, but you can have 2 watch lists and you can have 1 watch list for your chart and for your the entire watch list. Your second watch list can just be just your options contracts, and that can be watch list 2 can be just the watch list of the option contracts and the turbo trader. Meanwhile, watch list 1 is attached to your chart, order book level 2, time and sales. So you can have QQQ on watch list 1 with the QQQ chart and the order book level 2 and time and sales. And that way you can have watch list number 2 for QQQ 624 calls, right? But have it sitting there at just with the turbo trader, that way, and a separate chart as well for the option graph. But that way you can see order book level 2 without having to switch back and forth. Pretty cool little tidbit there. All right, so we're almost up here on NQ. Can't see this thing. Roughly 80 points profit here. I'm just waiting for 100% personally. So $2 a contract is what I'm waiting for. Oh, sorry. I didn't even have the chat room up. I don't know if you guys were saying anything. Well, we executed our game plan. Look, both entries were right at the game plan. I cannot get you any more prepped for this trade, my friend, because I'm telling you, I want to take a breakout at 794. I'm telling you, I'm biased for calls as long as we stay above 740. I'm biased to the upside. That first entry goes really short, really quick, comes right back. Okay, that's fair. But then what did I say? What did I say? I said, as long we're holding, I said it as it was happening. I basically called the bounce because I said down here, we're holding this range. It's moving well. I said, yes, it's come back into the stop loss, but it's holding. And then I told you, if we come back up, I will be interested for the reentry. And then we signal the reentry. So you got to remember, I can't make it any easier than this. There's truly nothing else I can do to make it easier. I'm not saying this is easy. I'm saying on my end, there's no more effort I can put in to make it easier for you. That's kind of what I mean. We are starting to encounter some more sellers up here, so I am a little cautious. Just putting that out there in case someone wants a full exit up here. If you don't really care about hitting 100%, I do personally. I don't mind the last few contracts running back to the entry. I do not mind. But my stop loss is at entry, so just keep that in mind. I would be giving up, as of now, 62% profit. Okay? Because my whole thesis as of now is the fact we've broken above this support zone down here and this 4-hour level. I'm expecting us to, we might come down and retest this 4-hour level now and then bounce above this and then be able to hit 100 points. Remember, days where we trend, NVIDIA got so close. Days where we trend, it moves like this. Okay, it doesn't go like this. It moves up, down a little bit, up, down a little bit, up, down a little bit, things like that. Tesla ended up playing out well. I didn't have it pulled up. Oh my gosh. No, is that from the other day? Okay, good. I thought I mistyped Tesla. All right. Sorry, Sean. I'm just seeing this message now. Yes, there's nothing wrong with that at all. His question was, if he wanted to stay in this trade, but he's a little bit nervous, can he just sell the majority of the position now and leave one runner? Yes. The answer is yes. So he entered with 15 MNQ. He sold 5 on the first trim, 3 on the next trim, and then 2 on the trim after that. But just now he's going to sell 4 so he can leave 1 for a runner. I don't see anything wrong with that because you trimmed well on the way up. You trimmed really well on the way up. So you didn't sell the majority like I did. So you could totally do that now. You have a much higher net ROI. What we're basically trying to see here, though, my friend, is if we can hold this 4-hour level on NQ. James, when your trade comes back to your entry, what makes you want to hold the trade as opposed to possibly just getting out a little bit early? I ended up getting stopped out 10% in profit because I was a little bit nervous and moved my stop loss up. If I had kept my stop loss at entry, I would have been fine. I got $1.01 on the fill. Everything I said to you, whenever I said that we're basically looking for a hold of this level, that's what I was going off of. There's just so much support down here. You're right. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but there's so much support down here. We have a 4-hour key level. We have pre-market high. We have this order block, and then we have a normal level. But there's basically, if you think, I want you to think about like a video game. You have 4 bosses that price has to get through in order to break through that. What are the odds that's going to happen? It's extremely, extremely low. So that's one of those situations where if I'm you and you're hearing me say this out loud, hey, if we can hold this order block, we should be good. Like we can see a pretty good trade. I would now run the risk to reward in your head. So tell yourself, okay, I've already sold half my position. So if I have a normal stop loss, if this trade does come back and stop me out, I might be break even on the trade. But if it doesn't and it decides to take off again, I might make a lot of money. This might be a very good ROI trade. I might see a 2R, 3R trade. So now when we math the math, it just makes sense. But that's where a lot of new traders struggle because if they don't see a trade basically rip in their direction right away and continue going in their direction right away, they usually can't hold the trade. Most people get too uncomfortable holding a trade until repetition after repetition after repetition, after they see these trades play out 100 times. And then they go, maybe I should hold the trade. Maybe I should just stick it out for once. And then when they do that multiple times is when they see the ROI. A good way to look at it, look at whatever profit you made in the last few days. Look at it per trade, though. What did you make per trade? Okay. Now, I want you to think about the fact of if it was a 100-point trade and it just had one MNQ run, that's an extra $200. But let's say you only get one a week. Let's say the market's crap all month long and we only get one 100-point move every single week. That's it. Okay. NVIDIA, by the way, NVIDIA, you should be trimming. Sorry, I'm trying to keep MU would have stopped you out, and NVIDIA, you should be trimming. But that extra $200, it adds up quite a bit. That's an extra $800 P&L by the end of the month. That's an extra $800. And odds are you've been in that trade, like you were able to do that, but odds are you've just moved your stop loss up too close, or your entry was super late, and that way your break-even stop loss was still super close, right? Something like that. So, but more often than not, you will see, if you back test and look at your trades on your journaling, there can be times where you're like, hey, if I had a little more confidence, I could have easily stayed in this trade. It only went into 2 points of drawdown. What was I so nervous about? You know? And that's why it's good to write these things out. So on a day like today, what you guys can all put in your journal, let's say it came close to your entry, you can write in there, came close to the entry. However, James was mentioning that there was an order block. Write out the order block, write out the level, put it in there. So it gives you some real data. You're not just going off of memory. Write out, James had an order block on QQQ between 623.40 and 623.29. He had an 11-cent order block that he said if we could hold that range, price will more than likely move back up. So that way you can tell yourself in your journal, okay, I had the knowledge there, even though I don't necessarily know what I'm looking at. I had the knowledge from James there of, hey, here's a support level we can utilize and we can see if price can move up from here. Or heck, even a re-entry, right? Some people who didn't even take any of the first trades, that can even be used as a re-entry. NVIDIA is probably going to move with the market. If you have runners left on NVIDIA, you can target 190.5. We're 2 cents away from 100% here. Can we get it? $1.98 a contract up there. If you want to trim on NQ, that's on you. It hit that profit target. Roughly 84 points profit on NQ. Holding 815 beautifully here. That's a strong bounce off of 25,815 right now that I'm seeing. I don't want to read that out loud. That's rude. But yes. Basically, what this gentleman is saying is where you can look to improve as a trader is if you understand the trade we're taking, you will have more confidence and you would be willing to hold the trade. Me giving that explanation. So the explanation of holding it down here, that's basically what he's saying. He's just saying, if you had agreed with my explanation down here, you should hold your trade. Because you would agree. You would say, yeah, technically, if you look at it this way, let's say you didn't take any trade and let's say you see that retest happening. If you're agreeing with it, it's almost like you would be willing to re-enter a trade. Whenever you hold a trade, you are basically saying you are continuing to hold that risk. You continue to hold that asset. If I own Apple stock and I'm up 40% on Apple stock, and then tomorrow I wake up and I'm up 38% on the Apple stock, it went down 2%. That morning, I'm making a conscious decision. This is going to keep moving to the upside, guys. This is moving really well. For all the NQ guys in this trade still, this is going to move beautifully. That is a nice bounce of that 815 level. Really nice bounce. Wow. I would target 100 points. Roughly 250% profit. All right. So whenever I was looking to draw out a quote unquote zone, all right, I'm telling myself there's a zone I want to see play out or a level. I have to look and decide, do I want to draw a bunch of levels in an area or do I just want to draw out a block? Why might I might have to put this on a 1 hour actually, so you can see it better. Why? Yeah. Why might I want to draw out a block? Well, I might want to draw out the block because many times it retraces in that particular area. And then when it's in that particular area, I see some type of reaction. And it could be based on higher volume as well. I don't know what this will look like on an hourly time frame, but let's see. So here's another thing you can do. So you see 624, this level it's held kind of all day. I can also tell myself in this range right here, I can go, hey, look, I can see, oh no, that's not it. I can say there's heavy volume. Volume session profile means low, 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 and then super high volume right here. Where you see a white line, there's a lot of volume. So now as I'm watching this, I can tell myself, oh, look at this. There's another order block in this range right here. That's where high volume here the day prior. The day prior, high volume again. High volume again on this particular day. So I can use that to my advantage, okay? And then I can come back to the actual day's price action and take a look at that and go, okay, boom, look at that order block. So even though it's not an exact level, right? Remember, guys, it's not an exact level. Now, when all of a sudden, when I'm looking at this, I'm like, dude, this makes a lot of sense. That's actually kind of crazy. I can see where price has retraced for liquidity grabs multiple times into this area. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, it would have been very difficult to hold through that news because of the massive drop and breaking straight through your order block. It would be very risky. But besides the news obviously causes unnatural candles. We can see all the other candles that were based on normal price action and volume. They have respected this order block pretty well, right? So now that I'm seeing this play out, I can tell myself, hey, that's a pretty legitimate order block in reference at least to the most recent price action. That's a pretty legitimate order block. Now, that's pretty darn big. I don't know if I would keep it that big because it's not helping you that much, but that is something to keep in mind. So the more I look at this, the more I can tell myself, okay, in relations to the last few days, this does make sense. And now I can tell myself, as long as it stays above this range, that makes sense. Or if you don't like this much nonsense on your chart, you just simply delete that order block, and then you can write out 624. You can just write out key level. It doesn't have to be a 4-hour key level because I didn't find that optimistic today. Let's say you got more than one MNQ, you got some room. I would, again, go by 50-point increments on the way up. I'll screenshot this just in case and post it so you guys can use my levels just in case for the rest of the day. All right. Nvidia still, options, you would have been stopped out. NQ, if you're in this still, which again, bravo to you if you are. 100 points at the peak. You hit it. Fantastic. 1% better every single day. You guys crushed it. Have a good one. I'll